Boom. Let's go, boys. High fives.
Boom, boom, boom. Come on,
Come on, microphone in my face. I feel locked in here.
Oh. Ladies and gentlemen,
Fasten
boys and
your
girls,
seatbelt.
this is Cigar Talk Live, our Tuesday get-together, where you beautiful people on that side of the lens get to sit with these beautiful people on this side of the lens, have a cigar, have a drink, have a conversation, and more importantly, you ain't going to learn shit. Isn't that right, Adrian?
That's right.
No, we ain't
That's what
here
he's
to
here
be
for,
doing no
100%.
teaching.
We ain't here to do no teaching.
No, so if you're here to do learning,
But tonight, importantly, we have an extremely, extremely special guest that we have been really killing it lately. And tonight is cream of the crop.
yes, for sure.
Tonight we have
talking
on the
about?
show.
He looks like he's strapped in a kid's seat.
You can pull that out. You're not going on a roller coaster. You can move that thing.
Did that take a couple necks away? Oh, okay, that feels better. Oh.
Tonight we have Jeff Haugen, Crux Cigars, in the house. What's up,
Hello?
Jeff?
Hey, what's up? What's
Give it up
up?
for Jeff Haugen!
Thank you, thank you.
Crowd goes crazy.
Thanks for having me.
Oh.
What are we doing here?
We're still trying to figure that out.
Okay.
But for those of you who are watching, you are hitting that share button right now. You're going to comment, you're going to like, you're going to do the social things, and that will help us grow this, because what's about to happen is going to be, I am 100% positive, an excellent, excellent conversation, which takes place at cigar lounges nationwide every day, but here especially even better. Pops, what's up over there?
You know, I'm smoking a cigar that doesn't exist yet. I'm sitting next to my friend Jeff Haugen. Life is good.
Life's good.
Life is
Get
good.
any better?
Yeah.
Life is good today. Let's start the show. Let's get a little cheers. Oh, do you have something in your cup right now?
I don't. I'm not sure whose that is.
I got you. Why don't you carry the show and just tell these people what they can expect? I get you filled up.
Yeah. So, is this Jeff? Is this your first time on our podcast?
Yes.
Okay. So,
I learned about it today.
oh, excellent. We have a portion of the show where we call it the Judgment Zone.
Judgment zone.
Judgment Zone. That'll be,
You will be
towards
judged.
the end of the show. But we've had quite a few guests that just through conversation end up shedding a tear or two. And so, if we can get to that level with you,
So you
we
need
succeed.
you need some crying.
I've been trying all day to get you crying.
No.
I was just trying to soften you up a little bit.
Listen, I'm a shell of a man to begin with, so it's not going to take much. You know.
Well, you just drank a 98.6 degree beer just in.
Don't tell them how we do pre-production. Let's cheers it and move on to the next subject,
Yes.
shall we? Cheers, boys.
Cheers, cheers, cheers,
Salud.
cheers, salud.
Thanks, Pops.
Thank
nice cheers over there, Pops.
Cheers to
Appreciate
y'all. Thanks for
you.
joining us tonight.
Yeah. I'm all strapped in. I got this.
Cheers, all of you.
apparatus. I feel like I was in an accident and my
Also-
neck support is all attached.
Also, tonight you're going to notice a couple of things. We've got some long distance mic stands, and our computer is not up on the desk. We can't actually see you tonight. So Evan is running the comment board. Wayne is running the audio board over there. We are actually, believe it or not, turning into an actual show here.
It's unbelievable.
It's
A
unbelievable.
lot of bright lights. A lot of bright lights.
lot of lights.
Loud noises, the whole thing.
I love it.
Okay, so the real question is, what is Cigar Talk Live and what does this stand for? And really what this is, as we spoke about earlier in these seats, about 3 hours ago, this is a great opportunity for us to learn about each other, to take something away from a conversation. But ultimately, one of the elements, this isn't the full element, but one of the elements are learning about each other to a degree that these are the stories and these are the things you would learn about somebody when you're at their funeral. And their friends tell you about the story, the time they got arrested and the paddy wagon took you to Burger King on the
yeah.
way and you had a hooker in the thing and the
Yeah.
whole deal, right?
Not in the paddy wagon, but yeah.
But at jail, you had the hooker
Yeah.
at jail.
Yeah.
And she was going to sit in your face. Look, at the end of the day, all of these,
yeah.
I think what we'll get into is just some really stellar conversation. I think to kick it off, Jeff Haugen, will you please just go ahead and take your whole life and sum it up in 90 seconds for these fine folks?
If you go 92, it's going to be okay because we know you're interested.
My whole life, listen, I mean, like anybody, I was born a bit of an overweight baby. I stayed overweight through the third grade. I got in shape as a teenager. I got in really good shape in my 20s. Now I'm 52, and I've gained 20 pounds in the last year, so I got fat again. So I think I've come full circle. Is this what we're talking about?
Yeah. This is what we're talking about.
It's all about weight.
I'm glad you understood the question.
Yeah, and I know that's where you're going with this because you kind of looked at me a couple of times and said, "Holy shit, this guy got fat."
No. I'll
So I
actually swap it around.
I misread that?
Yes, because when I was going to say how proud of you I am, because we were in, let's back it up to 2019 when we were in the factory together in
Goals.
Nicaragua.
We're talking about goals.
And you set a goal. You said, I think I want to be about 20 pounds overweight, and I'm just not going to
Check.
stop until I'm there. And you exceeded your goal.
That's what I do. I set goals, and I think I exceeded it. I'll tell you what. I went.
It's amazement that you're seeing in
I
my
went and
eyes.
saw the doctor. And the doctor, my cardiologist, weighs me and says, "Huh." Now the exam table is over the digital readout where my weight is, and the doctor says, "Well, you gained a few pounds." And I went, "All right, whatever," but I couldn't see it, right? So then I thought about it, and it didn't hit me a week later. I said, I got to go step on a scale and see what happened. 27 pounds heavier.
Nice.
I
So you
crushed
exceeded
my
your
goal.
You
I crushed
exceeded,
my
yeah.
goal. So I went out and
you
I
go.
went and had some ice cream to celebrate.
You're an inspiration. You are an inspiration.
That's what I do. That's what I
In
do.
Minneapolis, Minnesota, there is a blizzard at Dairy Queen named the Haugen. It's 72 ounces.
It's like a big gulp.
And I'm in the back eating all the excess ice cream or the misorders. I mean, I eat it all.
Yeah.
I mean, it's
Yeah, and for those of you who are watching and wondering, well, who the fuck is Jeff Haugen? Well, you may not know the name Jeff Haugen because unlike many boutique cigar manufacturers, right now boutique cigar manufacturers who generally lead with themselves and their personality first, you may know his cigars in Crux Cigars. Creator, founder, president, CEO, many hats that you wear.
Plus a retailer.
Should we talk about cigars on Cigar Talk Live, or should we just go ahead and graze past that and get into something else?
I mean, you could answer the question: why would you want, after having a stellar career in retail, why you would actually want to create your own cigar line?
It's a great question. As a retailer,
Great question.
Yeah,
Great
so
question.
watch how quickly this gets to
and here's going to
politics.
be even a better answer. Why do you guys do that? I can throw it right back. Why do you guys do it? You do it because of this. You do it because of the connections you have with your customers, the time, the friendships, the camaraderie, all the things that go into it. And I don't want to use the word passion because I'm not a farmer. I don't grow tobacco. I don't do all that kind of stuff. But what I am passionate about is meeting people and connecting with people and learning from people. And as a retailer, I've been very fortunate to be in front of people that have become my mentors in business. Now, I was in Minnesota as a retailer, and I opened my first retail store in 1992. But it was also a high-tax state, so 35% had been for 17 years. 2005, the tax went from 35 to 70%. We had a floor stock tax of 35%, meaning at the time I had 2 retail stores. We had 10 days to pay 35% on all inventory between 2 stores, or you assess penalties and interest. And it was the first time that I kind of went, wow, is this a business I can be in, right?
Yeah.
So that was the first time I said, how do I stay in this business? How do I stay in this industry? I may not be able to do it in the state that I'm currently in. And that's when the idea of having a brand. Now, it took several years later before that became to fruition. A lot of that time was just trying to talk to the customers and saying, hey, I need you, right? I mean, and unless you've been in a situation where you're in a high-tax state, and there's other retailers that may be listening to this in high-tax states, and I had to look at every customer and say, listen, I need you. I need your business, right? I know I'm not going to get all of it, but if I want to be here, and so can you help me keep the lights on, right? And so it was some real conversations with people, and it was a very difficult time. You know, our box sales, meaning selling full boxes of cigars, in that first year from 2005 to 2006, we're down 68%. You know,
Did you say down 68%?
We were down 68%. Year 2 was down another 50%. So we were losing our revenue, and so I mean it was an amazing time, but I learned so much through that time as well. So what I learned is that people that love you want to see you succeed. Your true friends always want to see you succeed.
Right.
Your true friends will always lift you up. And my customers lifted me up at that time and lifted our business up and kept us going. And we didn't make a lot of money, but we kept after it and kept going and going and going. And then we fought the fight legislatively, down to the Capitol, numerous times, sitting in Senate Tax Committee hearings, and you name it, right? Just trying to fight the fight. Ultimately, now we have a lower tax in Minnesota, right? So, but I have people that run that retail business. But through that time, we got through all those difficult times. But then, what I had to think: do I want to stay in the cigar business? I mean, I loved it, but if I'm going to stay in the business, I know I can't duplicate or replicate what we have in Minnesota. And even though we got the tax lowered, it's only a stroke of a pen legislatively that you're out of business again. Right? Or you're fighting for your business.
Right.
And building these stores, as you guys can attest to, are so capital intensive. You know, if you build a store, it takes you time to cultivate a business, a customer, and layer that business year after year after year. And when there's so much uncertainty in the marketplace, it just didn't make sense to expand it. So the way I could expand it, because what I loved about being in retail stores is the real and true human connection you get with people. What I realized is a good way of doing that might be to go to other retail stores across the country. And by having a brand, I could connect with other retailers that think maybe like I do a little bit. I can learn from other retailers like I've learned from you guys. I can learn more life lessons. And so now you go to these stores and my whole team they can back me up on this. Every time you go in a retail store, the ownership of the store, the management, the entire staff, and then you get to know all the customers. And I'll tell you what, there's nothing more fulfilling in being in this industry. It isn't about the money. It isn't about the money at all. No, it's about this. It's about having this time together. Yeah. Right. So anyway, did that answer your question at all?
A little bit, but it was his question. But it definitely answered a question.
Did you ask a question?
Yeah.
No one answered it. No one asked.
You know what? It's throwing me off.
What's that?
98.6%.
Yeah.
No, it was
beer.
Yeah, the beer was hot.
That threw me off.
Well, it gets you off your kilter low. You've been too comfy today.
Fairness, we did it.
I'm
we
trying
did
not
have
to burp in this microphone. I'm telling you right now. Like,
we did have a
coming
guest.
back.
We had a guest that can drink everything on the table, plus 4 bottles of wine. But he had one of those 96-degree beers and was off the cliff.
Is that
Before
true
we got
story?
started,
He
That's
touched
a
me in the
true
face.
story.
He was touching my
He was
face.
touching. Yeah, he was touching his face. I think I got a
Shished me?
kiss. Yeah, it was.
You remember that, right? That was
One-
the creation. That
one
was the
beer.
creation of that, because he had one beer and then got real loopy. We said, all right, that's what we're going to do.
Yeah.
But I think you're doing exceedingly well, and I think this is a great opportunity for us to move away from cigars and into life, because it's very interesting the way that life. You set up a business, you run through. You've been going at it since 1992.
Yes.
A long time. All of a sudden, now 13 years in, you've got someone that makes a change. Taxes go, you have to make a pivot. And I think we all are tossed these number of hurdles in our lives that you just have to jump over them, run around. You have to figure out what you're going to do and what works for you and for your family. And something that I've heard from you today a couple of times, and I've heard from you over the years that I take great value and add great value to that, is you can identify what is most important to someone, the 3 things most important in the first 5 minutes of any conversation. And
Absolutely. I think that's the goal with anybody you meet for the first time. You can learn from everybody, but people are passionate about 3 things, right? And if you just ask the right questions within the first 5 minutes of meeting that person, you're going to learn everything about them, right? And actually, I don't know if Casey's listening, but he and I were in a store one time, and we were at this retailer, and he said, "Oh, I'll listen to your pitch, but here's the store. Blah, blah, blah. We have no room for cigars. Like, we don't have a budget or any of that kind of stuff." And I was just talking to Casey about connecting with people, right, and just having real human connections with them. And the guy gave us a tour, and he says, "All right, let's see your pitch." And I said, "Well, just hold on one second." I said, "Before you were a retailer, before you got in this business, like, what did you do?" He says, "Well, I was a master butcher." I said, "Master butcher? What's that?" And he went on and on about boom. And I learned so much from that guy. Like, by the end of the conversation, I had his phone number. He had my phone number. He was texting me for months afterwards saying, "Hey, here's a recipe. Here's a way to do this. Here's a way to do that." We just had a real great conversation about it. He also called us up immediately after and said, "Yeah, I think we're going to take the line." So
because you cared.
Well, yeah, and it really, and for us, I mean, we know the as far as what we do. I mean, cigars are cigars, right? But it's really about, like I said, the relationships that you get in this business, and so yeah, you learn something from everybody talking, and I'll tell you what, most people are going to be passionate about in their first three things. It's rare that it isn't a wife or their kids or their friends. It isn't people. That's the most important thing. When I ask that question to people, like, what's the most important thing to you? No different than my mentors say, what's your primary goal? My primary goal is to spend more time with my wife and my kids. You might have to make sacrifices to get you to that point, right? Mm-hmm. You might have to travel a lot now. You may have to go to Nicaragua on a monthly basis for the next 5-6 years, which I did. You have to do all those kind of things. But if you really want to see your kids grow up and be there in the years that are most important, you need to put that time in now. And so, and then sometimes it might be, hey, I hunt or I fish or I do whatever, Mm-hmm. And if you ask questions, you're going to learn something. And then, they know you genuinely care. Because I think the important thing is you just need to go into every conversation with everybody and say, like, I want to genuinely care about this person. And if you go instead of like, I'm going to brush them off and just pleasantries and hello, how you doing, but just genuinely care about that other person. It's amazing what kind of great conversations you have, and you can get into very deep conversations very quickly because of that.
Mm-hmm. What are the three things you care about the most, Adrian?
Yeah, family, faith, and friendship. Wow, the 3 F's. Jot that down.
I made a note of it. Family, faith, and friendship.
Yeah.
Yeah, that echoes out. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Where are you at?
Like the same. I think I don't consider myself religious, but I have faith in something that's
doesn't
bigger
have to be
than
religion
No.
necessarily.
Yeah. And I know a lot of people that's like, that's number one, and everything else falls behind it. For me, number one is family.
Yep.
In my family includes our pets, because we just lost one, and it hammers you. Mm-hmm. So, I think that family is there. I think the friends or the relationships that we build up here.
Yeah.
And for me, the ability, I've told the story before. When I left Omaha, I was there for 48 years of my life. The first 48 years, and then moved down here, and there were 2 people at my going away party. But I have a birthday party here, and there's 120 people, mm-hmm. and they're all friends. They're not here because we're giving away a cigar. So the adding of friends has been incredible, particularly for as guys get older. Men, you just don't have friends. Women can connect and they'll talk and go shopping and doing all that stuff. Guys just don't connect. But this environment's created that.
How wide does your scope of, when I think we would all say family probably is number one, I'm guessing. But how wide does your scope go with family? Is it immediate family? Is it your family including your cousins? I know how I spoke to my aunt at Nick's funeral, and that's not the same level in which I love Jeff far more than I love my Aunt Susan.
Yeah. And I'll almost, after I said that, I almost will rephrase that, because when I say family, I consider y'all my family.
Yeah.
Right.
There's many people here that I consider my family. There's other people in my sphere that I consider my family. We don't have family here. They're in other same state, but different city, far away. But to your point, there's probably some friends that we love more than actual family.
Yeah, for sure.
And so maybe the friends portion that I met is probably the mentors, the people that you can talk to, pick up the phone, hey, I'm having a bad day. People you can talk to, people you can meet here, have a cigar, and everything's good.
Yeah. How wide does your scope of family go?
I would say, for me, I think my scope is pretty large. Both my family, my wife's family. If you're a Haugen, I love you by default. But I'll tell you what, the Haugen family, I'm telling you, they're all just incredible people, right? there's just no bad apples in it. I mean, I'm very fortunate in that. And my wife's side, same thing. We just love them. And, nobody's perfect, right? So, like, but we just go in and say, hey, we're family, you know. But back to your question, I just want to point one thing out. When you're talking to people, like, asking 3 things, it's one thing to ask them point blank, what are the 3 things most important? Like, hit you with that question. You're like, okay, well, I'm going to give you these 3 answers, okay? But you're going to be surprised that when you start talking to somebody, those 3 answers may change, right? Mm-hmm. There may be obvious answers, but the real answers are different. So what's important about that is when you listen to it, you know, and it's not like you say, well, your priorities are misaligned because you're not thinking about, you know, maybe God first or family second. You're not thinking in a particular order.
Yeah, by ranking them.
It may just be what's going on in their life right now. They may be struggling with something in business, so they're going to talk about business right now, right? Doesn't mean that that's the most important thing in their life, right? So you have to kind of take it in context too to say, I mean, because I agree. I think everybody's going to say, if they have faith, it's going to be faith number 1. It's going to be family number 2, and it's going to be everything else number 3, right? But but a lot of times you're meeting people and they talk about those 3 things. It's going to be something they're passionate about, but sometimes it's also something that's really heavy on their mind, and they just want to talk about it. And listen, I'm not a counselor or a therapist or any of that kind of stuff, you know. I mean, I'm kind of a fragile guy myself, so, like, I can't handle a lot of it, you know. Like I said before, I am a shell of a man. You're going to crack me, and I know you're going to try to make me cry.
That's our
Barbara
goal.
Walters, but, like...
Do you think, I'm just going to ask this question. Obviously, nicest guy in the world, right?
Top 5.
Minnesota,
Yep.
Nebraska, Texas. Is there something about the middle United States
That makes it better.
versus the east and left coast that there's just like this innate kindness?
Did you just call it the left coast?
Yeah.
That's
East
well
and
done.
west.
Yeah, that's really well done.
Yeah.
You're talking about the edges.
Yeah.
But it's there's just innate niceness. There's a mutual respect. I wonder if we could pull this off in New York or Pennsylvania or California. Could we open ICC the way it is today? Do you think they give a shit that our family's here and that we're doing all this together?
I don't think so.
I'm just wondering.
I would tend to say yes. I mean, for me, I think it's different, right? So, like, you go to Miami, you know, bro, no, you're wrong, right? I mean, everybody's talking over everybody, and that can happen on the East Coast. Well, it can happen in Chicago. I mean, different places. But I'll tell you, we're all the same, right? And so I think that's kind of learned in an environment, and once you cut through that, I think there's more you have to cut through to answer your question. I would say there's more you have to cut through. There's still incredible people, still genuine. I think is yes, but you have to cut through some of that other stuff first, because that's just kind of learned behavior. And once you do, I'll tell you what, like, I know it's kind of, sometimes selling to cigar stores on the East Coast is extremely difficult because you have to cut through that stuff. Once you do, they're the most genuine, loyal, just like anybody else.
Yeah,
Like, they're incredible people. So I think you gotta approach things a little bit different and realize there's maybe a little more time.
They got a little thicker crust.
Yeah, you got to get through the crust, you know. And once you do, they're no different than everybody else, you know.
There's that common denominator, right? It's this.
It's this, right?
Yeah.
It's
Now the
definitely
left,
this, yeah.
I'm not really sure. The left coast.
Yeah, no.
You know, I don't know what to say on that. I'm just kidding.
Now,
I
Wesley,
mean, feel free to say whatever you like on it.
Wesley Tackenberg comes in and said, I forgot to mention Iowa in there. That was intentional. That was 100%
I think we
intentional.
purposely left them
No,
out.
we didn't forget.
Iowa stands for I owe the world an apology.
You know?
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, 100%.
Idiots out wandering around.
So back to the point of identifying what's important. How are you?
Love you, Wesley.
You have a very unique way of, even a 3-year-old and a 6-year-old at dinner with my kids. You have a very unique way of asking questions and getting into that. What is your method of identifying those big 3 for other people? Do you have a set of questions you run through, or do you just fire and then just find a way to get them to crack and get them to roll and then pay attention and run from it?
People love answering questions. So you throw them any question. Hey, your kids, what's your favorite color?
Yep.
I mean, it doesn't matter what's your favorite animal. We talked about it tonight, you know.
Yeah, and what was Elias's? Dinosaur.
Favorite animal? What kind of dinosaur? This dinosaur. You know. I mean, so But like we immediately had a connection because we were having these conversations, you know, and so it was fun. I mean, the kids are great.
I think thank you for saying that. I have great kids. I outkick my coverage on a wife, and that makes all the difference in the world. But I think a 3-year-old can feel it just as a 73-year-old can feel it if you care. If you ask that because you want to know, what is your favorite animal? You have just this unique character, this caring, genuine character that I think the world needs more of.
Yeah.
The world needs
there
more
are
of
people
Jeff
that
Haugens.
ask questions, and there are people that wait to have questions asked of them. And sometimes I'll catch myself being the latter, but the best conversations are the ones that are asked. I think that's why this show works, because you're excellent at finding a path and running with and creating some questions that make people think. But yeah, we keep talking about skipping the stone across the water, and actually you want the conversation to get deeper than that. We already know what the weather was. We just came in from outside. We don't need to talk about it.
Yeah.
Right. So, you know, I think that's a personality trait that is that ability to ask a question, legitimately ask a question because you legitimately want to know. That's unfortunately it's unique. But I think there are a lot of people that just wait to be asked questions.
I think you're right. I think I think that is what's beautiful with this. I think for those of you who tune in, maybe this is what you tune in for, is identifying what's important to the people who are out there that you may not have an access to go and answer those questions. And people who you may know with us here every week, there's still something to learn. Like there's still something that you don't know other people's experiences until you ask those questions. And so that's what I really enjoy. I love sitting with Pops. I love sitting with our guests, and especially tonight with Jeff. And I get to sit with Adrian. And Adrian is, and we spoke about this on Saturdays, you're a man of lesser words, but very thoughtful and very calculated words.
Yeah.
And for me, it's always a win when I'm able to learn something from you. You know, because you're very stoic in a way that Jeff is also very stoic in keeping things guarded. People don't know he's going through very serious challenges as we are, but his challenges are significant. But he's still here with half a smile on his face, you know. And that's where I want to kick over to you and just what's happening in your world. What is your biggest challenge now? Is it a professional challenge? Is it a personal challenge? Where do you find yourself, and what are you trying to do?
Yeah, it's typically lately it's been business. It's, you know, what does the future hold? And I sell guns for a living, essentially. So it's like, to your point about the taxes, right? A simple, you know, ink on paper could change the dynamic for sure, and crush the people who are in my realm. And so I think about that, you know, futuristically, where am I at? What's going to happen? What's that next thing? How can I do better? It's always, but you know, I still rest in peace thinking I have mentors, people that I can speak to, and may not be in the same realm of, you know, gun sales essentially, but it's like, you know, how would you handle this? You know, what would you do in this particular sphere? And I get the assistance that I need, the help, and just the basic talk. And because of this, right, we can do that. We don't have to have a cigar while we're doing it, but I can pick up the phone and call you and have those conversations, right?
Yeah, without a doubt. And there's a very interesting point in there of the fear of the unknown and the future. It's, how much do you guys think about that? How much do you think about the future, and does it bring you tightness in your chest to think about the future? Do you take the future more or less for granted, or how do you approach what you're doing today to set yourself up for the future?
I think I'm a little different at this point in my life. I mean, I think most of my life up until a few years ago, I a lot of long-term planning. I'm not saying we don't long-term plan as a company. I'm just saying the stuff that I'm looking at is I feel like I've taken care of all the necessary things I need to take care of to make sure my family's provided for, and I've kind of finished all of those things, right? And so now I just try to live in the moment, right? At least for me,
What does that mean to you to live in
what
the
it means to
moment?
me is be present. Like when being present means put the phone down. When I'm with my kids, put the phone down. I used to find myself sitting with my kids, and my daughter's trying to have a conversation with me, and I'm checking my phone on a work thing. Like, what the fuck am I doing? Like,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? And I wasn't thinking that at the time. I'm just like, you know what? Yeah, she's talking, but like, I need to get a couple things done here, and instead of just being present, right? And it's, actually, we talked about earlier, the pandemic is actually probably one of the best things that ever happened to me, I know it's awful for a lot of people, but I'm just saying for me, for like in my life, it's kind of reset my way of thinking. I feel like my anxiety has come down more than it's ever come down. And that's because I'm just like, you know what, everything's okay. Part of his business is good, right? I mean, business is good and we've set it up. But when you're building all those things, that's when you have high anxiety and you're doing all that kind of stuff. But you know what? Because I have faith, I use my faith and I use God, and I have God shoulder most of my anxiety. And that's an easy thing to do. And every morning and multiple times throughout the day, I pray and I just say, all right, thank you for giving me a great mind. Thank you for giving me the strength to wake up. Thank you for all these things, right? And then you pray specifically on some things that can help you in your life. But all that anxiety then gets shouldered on to God. And at least that's what works for me. And more than anything, I've always felt like I had a faith, but the last few years has really, I think, put it to, it's been a test, so like there's a reason for all this, but what does it mean in my life? And everybody can interpret it, what's gone on the last few years in their life differently, right? But for me, it's like, this is my opportunity to not travel as much. I was traveling every week. It's my opportunity to, spend more time at home, spend more time with the kids, coach sports, whatever it is. And it's just, I've really taken it as a gift, and, but that's what I'm saying. Being present is just like, if all you're doing is thinking about the future, it's one thing to sit down and say, I'm going to block out an hour of the day or 2 hours a day. I'm going to plan finances, or I'm going to plan budgeting. I'm going to plan business strategy, build a strategic plan, whatever it is. There's a time and place for that, but it's not all day, every day, right? There's a specific time for that. The rest of the day is about just being alive. The rest of the day is about just being present with the people that you're with.
Living.
And I think, and you probably see a little difference in the way I am now than I was even a few years ago. Like I just, it's different, and, it feels good. And I know, I'm going through a lot of challenges right now and with one of our kids right now. But I know that it's going to be okay. I know that my wife and I, our team, we're together, we're working on it, and we're going to come up with the answers. God will provide. And there's going to be a reason for it, right? So it might be something greater than what we're dealing with right now. But, fortunately for our oldest son, I think he's going to come out stronger. He's going to come out better. He's going to be in a great place. And, and we're very thankful for that. Right now we're in the shitstorm, though.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But that's why I have to say, okay, God, get me through another day.
Yep.
Right? Give me the strength. Give my wife the strength. Keep us together. Keep us on the same page. When we're filled with self-doubt, and it's whether self-doubt in your relationship or self-doubt in your business or whatever you're doing, self-doubt is a natural feeling for all people, right? But like, how do you get past that? Don't get in that cycle of getting flushed down a power, one of those power toilets, right? Where you just, boom, I'm giving up, right? So you got to, fight the fight, right?
Yeah.
And that's what we're doing. And, next time I'm here, we'll talk about how some of these things have turned out.
Yeah. And basically the takeaway of that is the future is now, right? And how you handle it. Do you remember there's a little poem, I don't know if it's a poem you told me, but you told me when we lived in Riggs, and you said, the past is history, the future is a mystery, but the present is a gift.
Yeah.
That I can
Perfectly said.
I can still picture being in Riggs. So I was 15, 14. I don't know how old I was when you told me that.
Yeah. But I think that the challenge people have is that they want things to happen faster. So they create their own anxiety because nothing ever happens fast enough. When Brandon started his business, how many times did I tell you, you're just going to have to eat a shit popsicle for a while until this thing gets rolling, and it's not going to happen as fast as it normally, as you want it to.
Yep.
You know, you just because you launch a website doesn't mean you're going to have 1 million people on it. It just, you know, it's just another nickel in the bank. It doesn't matter. But I think that people create their own stress, their own anxiety, because they've set this goal and now they want it to happen fast. And sometimes it's just to say that they did it fast, you know, and that's my demon right now is, you know, the Frakes family doesn't let grass grow under anything. We want progress all the time. And the new space creates anxiety for me, not as much anxiety as I have to battle impatience. My impatience, when I'm impatient in my daily job, it results in shut up, get it done, and very aggressive to motivate and get people rolling. Dealing with the impatience of getting this done faster, that's my daily challenge, because I don't want that to affect who I am, my personality.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to let it stress me. I'm not going to let it trigger any anxiety or, you know, stress in my chest. I thank God for the EOS operating system that we operate our business on, because we have a plan.
Yep.
We monitor it and we do it and we've determined what's important. And so I have total faith in where we're going. I have total faith in what's going to happen when it's open. But my demon right now is battling impatience, because it's when you are geared to always be in gear and not hit neutral, and always be in gear and drive and push, to wait is painful. And it is, and we're driven.
Yeah, but to your point, to your own defense, is lease being paid right next door. Right? There's a lease and construction, and it's only cost right now. So it's easy to see that as, here's another $40,000, here's another $50,000, here's another, you know, fill in the blank. And here's a rent payment, and here's another rent payment. So it's easy to feel that, and I think that's okay. And it's, you know, and I think if you find yourself in the right team with the right people that will battle, you carry that weight, right? Especially to your point, you know, you find someone. If you're having issues on the FFL side, I may not know anything. I know nothing about it. But there may be something that, from a team perspective, they can carry that. Next door, I carry that weight, because that means we've got to have a marketing plan together and start having people knock on the door before there's a door to knock on. So that way, when the door opens, oh, okay, we're in and we're going. And I think that's really the grand blessing of probably something that we all share, is the right people in our lives. And I'm really curious about that, because this is a blessing for me to sit with you guys, as it is every week, and learn.
I will say this, that life is a heavy bucket. Could be full of shit, could be full of happiness, but it's a heavy bucket. But when I know it's pretty light when all 6 of us are carrying it. And when it's around here, it's really light, because the amount of people that help out here. Our vendor relationships. And that's it's like, I hate calling them customers. I hate calling you a vendor, because we're all in this together. It's everything is pretty
different.
light. Everything's pretty light, because there's a lot of hands on the handle. And I feel sorry for people. And Adrian, that's where I sympathize with you. You're carrying that whole thing for the most part by yourself. You know, Kathleen is there, but you're carrying it by yourself.
Yeah.
And you always have to know, however we can grab part of that handle and alleviate some of that, we're here, always.
I know that, and I definitely appreciate that for sure.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it's a heavy lift. You know, you've created something. You've got something that is, the channel itself is great. Then you spin it off. That's how I know you're one of us. You've got, okay, the channel, you've grown to umpteen thousands, hundreds of thousands, I don't know, crazy subscriber levels. And then what's next? Okay, FFL, what's next? Cigars and Guns Shirt Club, which has a massive amount of logistics that no one would have any idea, right? They just put in their credit card, hits them for $30 a month, they get a shirt. You got to design it, you got to communicate it, you got to produce it, you got to drop ship it, you got to promote it, you got to set it up, you got to have everything every month right now. And people know how fast a month goes in their own lives, but it's happening even faster when you have production timelines.
Yeah.
2 weeks for production. I don't know what it is. Probably 2 weeks for production. They got to cut the silk screen for every size.
Yeah,
it's
all that.
It's amazing, right? On top of everything else.
April's coming up.
Right.
Yeah. Everything you're saying is 100% true for sure.
It happens so fast, and you can get caught up in the wash.
Yeah.
That, to Jeff's point of being present and enjoying the suck a little bit, you know? Mm-hmm. And that's one question that I have is, what is it specifically after our many of hours of conversation today that I will take massive amounts of wisdom from? And I've gained nothing, but I didn't think I could respect you more, but here we sit and here I do. But what are those things that, in embracing the suck, in the things when you pray, similar I think to what I do, in the times of difficulty, what are those things that are positive in your life that keep you moving towards maybe the light at the end of the tunnel isn't visible yet, but what are those things that you enjoy the most that continue to just one foot after the next?
Well, I think, I mean, and part of this goes backs up here a little bit, but what I think it's important is everybody that has high anxiety, I used to deal with it. I don't feel like I deal with it like I used to, but I know several people that do. It's very common, and most people nowadays are facing the highest levels of anxiety in human history, right? And so, I think the first thing you gotta do is not be so hard on yourself, and just realize that, number one, you can only do what you can do, right? You're dealing with a number of variables here, and putting a place together in the midst of supply chain. The human resources are probably minimal here. You can't find people to do work. The scheduling is probably difficult, and we haven't talked about it. It's just my guess. There's probably just a number of things that are backing things up, and if this doesn't go, then the next thing can't go, and the schedule just doesn't keep moving in the way that you need it to get moving. In your business, I mean, the same thing, right? There's certain things you control, certain things you can't control. But I think for me, I just look at it and I just go, you know what? I can only do what I can do. I get to a point sometimes where I want everything to be, I can see where it needs to go. I see what it looks like at the end, right? You have the vision, you guys have the vision of your space, but you can only do what you can do. And that doesn't mean be lazy and not do what you can do, but you can only do what you can do, right? So as long as you're making that effort and you're moving things forward and you're making the calls and you're turning over every stone and you're looking at everything saying, hey, I'm doing what I can do, don't be so hard on yourself. Because, I mean, that's a thing that just then creates more self-doubt and more anxiousness, and then it fogs, I think, the vision of what really needs to get done. And so if you take that pressure off yourself and just go, listen, I can only do what I can do, right? But today, these are the things I'm going to work on, and by the end of the day, I'm going to get these things done. I'm going to make progress. And that's where reaching vision is an incremental process. It doesn't happen usually in chunks. It's just incremental every day, and that can be in any aspects of your life, your career, your relationships, whatever it is. It doesn't happen in one lump sum, right? It's incremental. You've built businesses before, you know everything it takes, and it's just a lot of little parts but incrementally you have to move that thing forward. But anyway, that's how I look at things now, and I go, yeah, there's certain things like I would love I'd love us to be making 2 million cigars more a year than we currently are. But there's certain things that I'm not in control of, right? Short of, buying tobacco fields and building factories and do all this kind of stuff. But then I'm not a farmer, right? I don't want to do that, right? You build a factory, who's going to roll the cigars? There's no rollers down there. So I can only do what I can do. I can see where I want to go, and I know in time it'll get there. It might not be the initial timeline that I've set for myself, but I know I'm going to get there. You guys know you're going to get to where you're going to go, and it sucks, unfortunately, when You're dealing with timelines that require, rents, lease payments, like you mentioned. There's some additional costs that are associated with that. Sometimes it's then reaching out to landlords, just saying, listen, I need a break on some of this stuff because, I'm not giving you advice. I'm just saying, but sometimes just another way of looking at it and go, listen, nobody can do this stuff. And for us to be here long term, we need some concessions on your side, right? And here's where we need some help. As little or as big as they may be, you'd be amazed at just asking for those concessions, those how people are willing to come out and say, yeah, we get it. Like we've heard all these things are going on. So anyway, I think that's how I handle things. Like, it was a vice president of a big major bank many years ago, and he taught me that. Just go, listen, you can only do what you can do. He goes, just think about it. You can only do what you can think, what you can do. And I took a lot of pressure off myself because I felt like it's me. Like I've now talked to all everybody here in the space. Like you have your part. You have your part. Ale has her part. Andrew has his part. Nate has his part. Everybody's got their part. Bagley, everybody's got their part. And you guys are all feeling the pressure because nobody wants to let each other down. Yeah, everybody's like, hey, we got specific tasks at hand. But listen, you guys, like you said, you guys are all lifting the bucket together. Keep communicating that. If you guys aren't feeling good, just say, hey, if you need help with something, if you feel that you're struggling with something, let's talk it through. Don't keep it inside. Yep. We all have the same vision. We all know where this thing needs to go, but let's incrementally work together to get there.
Yeah, I think you're right. And I think your vision, as I say often, is like the horizon vision. Especially with motocross. You look down at the fender, you're going to crash. If you're always focused on what's right here, but if you can get to that end of the day, there is freedom because it's really easy to work from that 5 to 6 to 6:30 to 7. And that 5 to 7 gets very frustrating because you're not getting responses because everyone else checked out. You have that frustration. But if the vision is on the horizon, there is that freedom and that release when the kid's knocking on the door and she goes, "Are you off?" "Yeah, I'm off." "What do you want to do?" "I want to ride my motorcycle." "All right, let's ride your motorcycle." That granting yourself that freedom, it just feels like you're in control. And
you've, by the way, have come a long ways on that in the last year.
In the last couple months.
Yeah. You've started making sure that you're taking that time off, which is...
It's made my life better.
Yeah.
And that's one thing that young parents, especially parents in my phase, because we want to be providers as fathers. We want to be there to make sure that the lights are on, that the bills are paid, that everyone's taken care of, that schools, they're in the best school they can be, and your job's done. And you're not letting people down. And there's pressure with that. But what I've started to realize is if you're not cool, the rest is not cool. Because then you resent the bills, you resent the things, and then you resent the people that those represent. And thankfully I didn't get to that point of resenting the people. But there's so much more freedom, and there's so much better production in the morning when you just have that time and the reminder. And I think that's probably the thing that I've learned the most is remind yourself often why you do what you do. Because without that, it just becomes the thing. And then fuck the thing.
You spend your whole life doing.
Yeah.
And then you're doing that. It's real easy for 9 to 5 to turn into 9 to 9 if you don't take that time and allocate it to the people you're doing it for.
And just shut it off. And that's really a lot what this show is. I always love watching you walk in. 5:30, 5:45, Adrian's walking in. I already know I'm getting you some love. But it represents something. Yes, we're working. And for the people who are here, we're not with our families right now. We're with you and with your families. And we do this for you. We also do it for ourselves. But it also represents something great.
Yeah, I want to share something with y'all I've never told both y'all. But I enjoy, and I know how busy both y'all are, as most of us are. But when I see you at the track racing your car or a car, it gives me joy to know, you know what, you're not working. You're having a good time and you're doing your thing, something that you're passionate about. When I know that you're at the golf course, I know you're off, you're turned off, you're enjoying yourself.
I'm happy.
And
Yeah.
you're happy.
Yeah.
And that I take joy in that. And just in general, just when I see people doing stuff that they love, that's not maybe work related, but it brings me joy to see that.
I couldn't agree more.
Yeah.
Just seeing a successful range day for you that I know has a bit of work to it and logistics, but to know you're in your element just gives me such joy. When Kelly posts you guys are on vacation, it's what we work for. You know, and there's that punctuation to the work.
Absolutely.
The punctuation, it's coming back. But when we see you guys are out and everyone around the table and the people you love the most, when you're excited for them to be off, I think, thank you for saying that.
That's a really cool thing you said that,
Yeah.
particularly on your friends, right? Like noticing that they're taking that time. I think the one thing as I get older that I would probably add to that is what I learned from a very close friend and a mentor is find a way. He taught me, like, find a way every week to work less. Find a way every week to work less. And you talk to people and they're like, yeah, I work 60, 70 hours a week, whatever it is.
For years.
And I go, all right, how do I go from 50 hours? Now I started talking to him, I'm embarrassed to even say it, but I started talking to him maybe 8 years ago. Everything that I'm doing now has been in motion for 8 years, but everything is about how do I work less, right? How do I go from 60 hours to 50 hours to 40 hours? And I'm just telling you, that number's getting pretty low.
Yeah.
It's getting low for me, and it's allowing me to spend time doing what I want to do.
And what you need to do.
Right. And so I think if you put yourself in a mindset is how do I work less out? And I'm just challenging people, like if you're working 50 hours, just next week work 45 hours. I'm telling you, you'll get 50 hours worth of work done in 45 hours.
That's a
Right.
different mindset.
And then start thinking about this. You do 45, go to 40, 40 to 35, 35 to 30, right? And you'd be amazed, like if you really focus what you're doing, you will get your work done in half the time that you're currently doing it, right? Now, listen, if you're a doctor on call,
that's
your attorney in trial,
Yeah.
I mean, whatever, there's certain things that hours are hours, right? And all billable and you have to be there. But if you're in a position or in a career that you have some flexibility, just start thinking about that. You know, putting time into work doesn't mean that you're just going to be successful putting that time in. You'll get more output by thinking about working less, and the results are going to be.
You listening over there?
Yeah,
I'm telling you the result, and that's
I'm thinking the
I don't know
same
if I-
thing.
and that's what I've done. I've
I don't
got
know
a
if
few.
I can do that. I don't know if you can do that.
Oh, fuck, I can't do it.
You're like me. Like, I have different companies, right? So every company I look at is like, how many hours at that company, this company, and this company, and I look at all of them. And I go, I'm going to lower that all by 20% in the next 90 days. How do I get there, right? So then I start creating a plan, a strategy, and getting there, right? And so now I'm at a point where, listen, I mean, and part of it is sometimes you got to hire people. You know, sometimes you take some of the weight, lift part of that bucket, whatever it is. You know, like your mind just starts thinking in a different way, where like it just naturally starts happening, and
Lights will come back.
and if you do that in a short period of time, you may only be knocking 5 hours a week off of work. You're going to have better results, and more importantly, you're going to be more refreshed, and you're going to have time to do what you want to do, whether it's spending time with the wife, family, golf, whatever your hobbies are, you're going to have it. So that's what I started doing. 8 years ago, I started doing that, and I still to this day look at it and go, how do I work less again? You know, it's not, to me, it's not about making more money, right? I mean, at some point, like if you think that way, it's the money follows, right? So anyway, just for what it's worth,
it's very interesting.
Well, I create an ICC list. I create a Noble list, my oil company. I create a personal list, because the thing that wears on me now is the personal things that I don't get done. So what I've started doing is saying what stuff can be done locally, and I create literally the imagination that I'm going to get in my car. Where am I going to go first? Where am I going to go? And I actually plan the trip and then do it. And I found that I can end up crossing half the things off of my personal list, and I get done in 2 hours. You know, the other day I had little errands, but it included getting my car inspected, my state inspection, all those other things. And it's like, so it's, but what I kept putting off because I figured that's an hour and that's an hour and I got to run here and I got to go there. I just made that list, and all of a sudden, what is 25% of my schedule, I knocked it out in 2 hours.
Yep.
And it was the personal stuff that kept getting, I've always put business first, and then I was putting myself last.
The same way.
Yeah.
Personal stuff is always last.
It was always last. But when
you're
that
talking
list,
about, like,
it doesn't fit on a sheet anymore,
right.
Well, then enough's enough.
Yeah.
You know.
I know.
Yeah, and that's one thing I wish you would change up a little bit is just how you do your lists. Because when you show me your list, it's a list of anxiety-ridden tasks. It's tasks.
Well, it's probably a mental dump is what it is.
It is.
Yeah.
But
Anybody have a lighter? May I?
But at the end, how much of that shit actually needs to be done?
Well, the
Right?
way I look at it
80%?
is if it makes the list. Now, there's some stuff that I'll do. Here's the beauty of making lists: is when things start sticking around, and you start creating a new list, you start realizing you have the same errand 3 times on the list.
Yeah.
It's now obviously important because I've thought about it 3 different times. I've just put it in 3 different parts of the list.
I do the same thing.
So it's just like, I got to take 3 of these off. If I just
do you
drive up
handwrite
the
it
street.
or is it digital?
I handwrite it.
Yeah, so that's your problem. So like I used to handwrite it, and then you have books with the same shit in it for pages and pages. You know.
I have a workflow that has worked beautifully, which is brain dump on Monday, but then you write a 1, 2, or 3 based on priority. 1, I've got to get this done. 2, this would be nice. 3, this is bonus. And then you fill your week with the 1s. When the 1s are crossed off, move to the 2s, then move to the 3s. So by the time you get through that list and it's checked there, okay, I've got everything on my brain dump into here. But I know, importantly, I've got times for my 1s and 2s. And if I carry a 3 more than 3 weeks and no one's asked me a question about it, the 3 goes away. Then it's done. Okay, well, I didn't need to do that in the first place.
And some weeks you'll get a new dump of 1s and 2s while you're working through all that stuff.
Exactly. The 1s will always
that's
come.
life, you know?
Yes. But that prioritizing your tasks, I think, are extremely important because small tasks like getting your inspection, you need to get it. You don't want to get pulled over for it. But it's important, but maybe that's not a 1 this week. You know, and I think being very smart with how you plan it, but that's the one element is going 1, 2, or 3 and going, okay, how many 1s and 2s do I have or how many 1s do I have? Oh, okay. All of a sudden that list of 73 things just turned to 8. Oh, that's manageable. I have to do 8 things this week.
Yeah.
Like you said, wake up every day and write down 3 things you're doing today.
That's it.
And that's the one thing that's helped
Anything else,
me.
get those 3 things done. You will prioritize the top 3 things that have to get done.
Don't you feel
get
that
it done.
people's struggle and stress and anxiety and panic attacks and everything else comes from this internalizing their list and just the frustration of not getting it done?
For sure.
Yeah.
No, there's one different dynamic here that maybe those that are watching a lot of times don't share. We're entrepreneurs. We own and operate our own businesses.
Yeah.
That's different. There are people that are doing very important jobs, but they're hoping that the guy they're working for has vision.
Yeah.
That he has organization, that he has structure, that he has enough money to get us through. In the meantime, they're just showing up, getting their stuff done, maybe getting yelled at because they didn't, but the stress is on that little piece that they've got to do. And I think that that is, I don't want to say that's less, it's different. Ours is, we employ 14 people. We got to make sure they're taken care of. All those things that come along with being a business owner.
And it's got to grow.
And it's got to grow. And it's got to, we're doing this for a reason.
Thank you, gentlemen.
All of those things. But, you think about somebody that's going to go to work and he's going to be a framer and he's going to just put up walls all day long and then that's what he's going to do. He's, in some cases, disconnected from the guy that's actually writing the checks and finding the business and all those things. They just do what they do. It's just, I look at our engineers and stuff at the oil company, they're all just stressed beyond belief. The reason is because they're trying to shove 10 pounds of shit in a 5-pound bag. They have too much work to do. We just don't have enough bodies to do it.
Yep. Yeah.
You know, so you just overwork those that are there. It's different kind of stress. Ours is, we're making lists. Those guys have one list. Go to work. Do what you do.
Yep.
Go home. And that's a different dynamic than what we're talking about. Our lists are just different.
They're different. I think about that. I think about all of us. Obviously, you have multiple businesses. Right? We're all sitting here, and I think about that one job. Think about, I show up and I do this, and that gives me anxiety to think about.
I'll tell you.
I don't know if you guys share that idea of just doing one thing every day forever. Even though my sales career was different, where I'd make calls on different customers, but every day I had a quota. Every day I sold the same shit. Every day I get in my car and either head west or east, but that was every day. And then I woke up and 15 years was gone, because that's all I did. Now I could say, put a roof over our heads and we never missed a meal and stuff like that. I can say that. But, man, you want to watch your life evaporate? Do the same goddamn thing every day. We have change. Every day's different. You know, one day we're thinking about, you know, budgeting and forecasting. The next day we're thinking, how are we doing on the budget? How are we doing? You know, what about this? Is this product coming in? I mean, all these things that we have coming in. Mm-hmm. But, man, my job was every day was different, but I was doing the same thing every day. And 15 years at Panasonic, and it was just poof, it was gone. Yeah, and how do you balance that? So we're all in this for the higher power, right? You know, it's this human connection. You're selling TVs and stereos and shit.
Yeah.
Could you imagine yourself doing something different? I mean, is it something that even a firearms standpoint, because there's such a community, there's obviously a community in firearms as well, but do you find yourself selling the metal, or do you find yourself selling the experience in the community? And how does that weigh on you, good or bad?
When I first started, it was all about F1, if you remember.
Yeah.
Right? It was a custom
F1 firearms.
They're a super custom, very high-end AR platform. And that's how I got into it. I became a master dealer with them. And I'm like, I'm the F1 firearm distributor in, you know, North Texas. And I thought that was going to carry me. No. We're talking about ARs that start at, you know, $3,000. So it's a certain clientele that buys those. And then I started getting like, hey, do you have any Glocks? Do you have any? And I never envisioned selling Glocks, Smith & Wesson, you know, just your basic. And maybe in electronics world, right, it's like, here's these high-end TVs, but now TCL is out and Roku's out and all these other ones, right? And they're probably the mass producers now. Everyone's buying those. That's where I'm at now. So it's more about volume more than just like, I'm going to customize this rifle for you because it matches the color of your car because you wear the same shoe color as that. And I can match that in an AR. But
does it make you feel better?
No.
Does it make you feel better to sell someone a entry-level AR who's never had it, or that person who wants the shoes that match the car, that match the rims that match?
It was a change of mindset. It was where it's like, you know, I can help someone purchase a firearm for the very first time, whether it be a Glock or whatever, or you have multiple firearms, but you wanted to get in the AR game. And you just wanted something basic that was usable for either home defense and or going to the range. And I take pride in that as well.
Yeah.
I do now.
It's super impactful to me.
Yeah.
Because when I approached him, I was like, I don't have much money for this, but I feel like an AR would be valuable. Mm-hmm. And he went and did the research.
Yeah.
There's no way you made shit for money on that. But it was very impactful to me. It showed your character. Because you go from they start at $3,000, but really they're $12,000 firearms. and now you're selling me a $600 AR. Showed your character, because the work you put into that was immense.
Yeah, and so yeah, I'll treat anyone buying a $500 piece of steel the same as someone who's spending $12,000 with me. Exactly the same.
Yep.
So can I ask you, I mean, I know at a federal level, but in Texas, what are your challenges legislatively? Are there bills in the House and the Senate, or is Texas still?
There's definitely stuff in the back burner, but right now we're good.
Minnesota, there's all sorts of stuff going on
Yeah.
with firearms.
Yeah, I think Texas.
God bless America.
Yeah, Texas, we're good for now.
For now.
For now, yeah.
For now.
that's all I can
But it's
say.
never. It's
Yeah.
not definite.
No, you never know. No.
Yeah, and it's interesting because your neighbor is the president of federal.
Well, my neighbors work for all the big manufacturers.
Yep.
He's worked for Federal, Winchester.
Okay.
He's a chemical engineer, explosives expert. So
Yep.
he's the guy that's kind of making all these people primer independent right now, right? So he's one of a few people in the country that can do that.
Yeah.
Two of them work for the big companies, right? So, but at the same time, like everything that's happening in the news, the media. I mean, the firearm industry, right? I mean, they're giant sweeping cycles, and they're not cycles by years. Sometimes they're by the
Instances.
week or by the month,
Yeah.
and that's what you're facing. So, I mean, I would imagine just the uncertainty of every day, because you just never know. You wake up and in the news there may be an event that dramatically affects the business.
Yeah.
Right. We don't quite face that in the cigar business. We just have some anti-smoking zealots that think that cigar tobacco is the same as cigarette and chewing tobacco, which
Right.
is entirely different.
Exactly.
So for us, it's an education piece that we can continuously drip through our legislators and help them understand. And I'm talking both sides. I mean, there's
Right.
you can't. We were talking about this earlier. You can't just pick one side of the aisle to talk to, right? Because then you're only as good as who's in control of the House or the Senate, right?
That's it.
And so for every election becomes a big election. Firearms is a lot more volatile
Yeah, that's a good way to put it.
Yeah, and that I would imagine creates a lot of stress, a lot of anxiety, because it's hard to long-term plan, right? So you want to be able to go to work every day and think about how am I going to provide better products, a better service to my customer, not how am I going to keep my business?
Yeah.
How am I going to lose a section of my business?
Yeah.
Right? It's really hard to plan for that. I mean, so I can just talking about it, I can feel the anxiety. I can't even
Yeah.
imagine kind of what you go through.
Yeah.
We feel it on the cigar level because this is where we're at, but it tends to be, much longer processes on those things. So, but fortunately, I mean, if you're a small business, you can maneuver quickly, right? And so it's still important to connect to that customer, whatever happened. No different than when, for us in tobacco in Minnesota, when the tax went from 35 to 70%, it totally changed our business. Overnight changed our business. And I had to go, okay, what am I going to do? I had to rewrite a business plan. I closed down a retail store. Fortunately, I had an attorney that put the bailout clause in my lease that allowed me to vacate the lease immediately to liquidate that inventory. And it was a new store I had opened at the time, liquidate the inventory, offset our floor stock tax and all those kind of things. So you're fortunate. That's the long-term planning
That's
you
the
can
long-term
do.
plan,
But it's tough for you to
Yeah.
do long-term planning in the type of industry you're in. So what you have is customer capture, right? Being connected to your customers, and then just realize, hey, I've got this customer. What else can they buy? What else can I sell them? If I can't do this, can I do this? Right? But I feel for you. I know it's difficult.
And it's all sweeping industry-wide stuff, right?
Yeah.
You couldn't pivot to silencers or ammunition or anything because, you've given someone, let's say you've sold 100 braces, right? All of a sudden, they're all felons because they have them and they have them registered. This is all sweeping changes. It's not like we could pivot to, I suppose maybe cigars are similar. If they say cigars are bad, then cigars are bad.
Yeah.
It's something I wish.
The unfortunate thing is that if we were just true businessmen and just wanted to make a ton of money, we would just get in the weed business.
Yeah, we do something else.
Yeah, I won't sell CBD or any of that stuff because I fundamentally don't agree with it. I don't encourage it. I don't, and so, but if we wanted to make millions of dollars, get in the weed business.
Yeah, dispensaries.
They're leaving that alone. In fact, they're encouraging it, but they're on this all-out assault on tobacco.
It's a lack of education.
It is.
It's the fault of our industry. It's the fault of our industry. You go to, they're not messing. Look, they'll play around with vape. They'll play around with these things. But you walk into TPE, to the trade show in January, February, and you see the tobacco industry, the cigar industry is VHS of the smoking industry. Right?
Yep.
You have these vibrant CBD and THC or
THC.
THC, THO, Delta 8, all of these things, right? And it feels like a party, but those guys also know how to educate. They also know how to hook kids, much more than cigars. But that being said, our industry is just dead.
But even that industry, I mean, I have to, like, I think within 5 years, you're not going to see 80% of those companies.
I agree with you.
Oh, the lab
agree.
manufactured stuff, the Kratums, Delta 8s, Delta 9s, all that stuff is just, the effects and the impact on children it's much greater than I think they originally realized. It's creating a lot of issues for the youth. Adults are adults; they can do what they want. I don't care. But I'm just saying, for the youth, it's very difficult.
Yep.
And so
they are marketing to kids.
And 100%. The packaging, the color, and all that.
And you're
kind of
making
stuff.
candy that looks exactly like a popular candy.
I have some of those CBD. I have CBD gummies at the house. Havana was being crazy, so I gave her some yesterday, my dog. But Elias was like, I want some. This is a 3-year-old saying, I want that. It looks like candy. But he's never, ever grabbed a cigar and went, I want that.
Yeah.
And I'll tell
Never.
you what, the ERs are flooding. They're flooding with children that are taking mom and dad's gummies. I mean, they think it looks like candy. To your guys' point, and but it's not really getting talked about. I mean, and it's a real problem. But ultimately, the government is interested in regulating. Once you regulate, you can tax. Once you tax, you have control, right?
Yep.
And so you do all that, and then Colorado is the first one to really legalize it, for recreational use. And the amount of revenue that came in, they said, okay, well, we're going to take all this revenue, but ultimately what's going to happen is they knew all this stuff. We knew there's going to be a black market. You're going to tax it, but there's going to be a black market that's not going to pay the tax.
Yep.
You don't know what you're going to get. And then we're going to have to use some of that money, but we're going to have so much of it that we're going to build an enforcement agency, a compliance agency that checks in all this stuff. And, a lot of stuff, they're having a lot of problems, right? I mean, it's a
Not to mention the $1 billion+ that was supposed to go to the education fund in Colorado, and all of a sudden it's missing.
Right, but I have to get I'm not going to give the FDA credit but I think their priorities are aligned a little bit with our industry right now.
I agree.
I mean, since 2016, they backed off a little bit. There's been studies that have really come out in our favor that have been conducted by the FDA, and I think they're realizing that vape, lab manufactured hallucinogens are a much bigger issue to the youth of America than, because one of their studies was, are the youth of America trying to buy handmade premium cigars? And the clear answer was no. Right? Now, I've been a retailer for 30 years. You know how many times we've had kids come into our retail store trying to buy cigars? Zero. The only kids are with a compliance officer. They're doing stings. That's the only time. I mean, kids aren't trying to come in and buy premium cigars. So anybody that tells you different it's just simply untrue.
Yeah.
And I think they're starting to understand that. So I want to give them a little bit of credit and say, okay, well, I think their priorities are probably more in line with, I think, where they need to be.
Yep.
And cigars still in the back burner because it's still in that tobacco category. We just need to learn more about it. But the more they learn about it, the more they seem to back off a little bit.
Yep.
Because this only brings people together. This only creates, wellness between people.
Give it to kids. I don't care.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm just kidding. You shouldn't do it. But no, you're exactly right. I mean, I think I think the FDA does have the right mindset in the beginning. Like we should be protecting.
Yeah, and I'm sure there's people
kids.
going to go, oh, yeah, whatever, Jeff. Like, just, people in the industry, yeah, the FDA is our biggest challenge. I'm not saying we still give it our full attention. We still, fight the fight, educate. It's all about educating both sides of the aisle. And what they're finding out is, listen, what we do is these are legal products right now that are smoked randomly, right? Not in an addictive nature, by adults that can make those decisions, right? And if you talk about long-term health effects, are there some? Probably, for people that abuse it, right? If you drink 15 Mountain Dews a day, you're probably going to have some gut issues over time,
for sure.
So same thing with cigar, but most people are smoking them on occasion, randomly, with friends or by themselves for reflection, or however they choose to enjoy a cigar.
Yep.
And I think they're realizing that, so that's kind of cool, For me, guns is a little different because, listen, I'm a gun owner myself, and I just don't want any, listen, I don't buy any guns with ever the intent of, mine isn't even really for, do I have it for self-protection? Yes. Right. Absolutely, 100%. But I'm buying guns that are just fun to shoot because I like shooting paper. I like shooting targets. No different than somebody has a crossbow or a bow and arrow. Just as deadly. If you put it on target, it's lethal. Yep. But that's not why. It's to hit the paper. It's to hit that mark. It's to knock over that bowling pin, whatever it is. Mm-hmm. It's fun as hell, and and it's. My wife got into shooting. She got her carry permit, and she's been training with somebody in Minnesota who wrote the concealed carry handbook in Minnesota, and he's taught a lot of law enforcement and special. He's done she's a way better shot than I am. She's put the time in, and she's got paper set up and it's double tap, pap, 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 pap. And she's just on, And she's not doing it because she's ever thinking about shooting somebody. It's just,
no, not at all.
It's fun, It's something to do, And fortunately, she's a mother with children. If I'm traveling, I'm not around, you're not going to want to come in our house, You're not going to want to break into our house. She can protect our house.
When you're traveling, you have that sense of comfort. That,
correct.
You know what? Something happens, she can take care of herself.
Right.
Yep.
Yeah. So anyway, I feel for you, but and I feel for this hockey game. I'm sitting here, Minnesota Wild against I'm looking at the Dallas Stars kicking. They beat the Wild 4-0.
You know what that means?
Stare at this all night.
You know what time that is?
I think so.
It is.
It's that time. It's that time to judge Jeff Haugen. All right, so let me explain this to you. This is the judgment zone. You should feel it in your loins.
Do I stay here for it, or do I leave the room?
No.
No, you should see yourself being judged.
Yeah.
Okay.
So what's going to happen is we're going to ask you 3 questions. The answers that you're going to give are on a scale of 1 to 10. 1 is a no, 10 is a yes. That 5, that's right in the middle, right on the fence, go ahead and take that and shove it up your ass. It doesn't exist.
Doesn't exist.
But
Commit.
what's going to happen is Adrian's going to ask you a question, Pop's ask you a question, I'll ask you one. We're going to answer what we think about you first, those who are watching as well, and then you'll answer
Get
after
your
that.
numbers ready, folks.
Adrian, you
Are
ready?
you going to talk about me gaining an extra 27 pounds?
No,
not on cam. Not on cam.
No, the stuff that we're dealing with
cam.
is much deeper than that.
Okay.
Yeah, and these
easy.
are character judging questions. Okay. You ready? You ready to judge him? Okay, good.
Yeah, we're going to
Adrian,
for sure.
Adrian, hit him with the first one, will you?
Yeah, let me light my cigar here real quick.
Are you? It's very important stuff.
Just the first one? Or am I ready?
Are you ready?
I don't know.
That's the right answer.
There it is.
Right answer. Good answer.
Do you have any fear right now?
Don't tell him he's going to be fine. We don't know what his answers are yet.
Fear.
He has no fear.
I got a cigar. I've got some scotch.
Yeah, you've been babysitting that over there.
Yeah, making a career out of that.
I can't get to it with this contraption in front of me.
These
strapped in the roll cage.
Legit, maybe we need straws for our guests. I don't know.
Yeah, long sleeve. Yeah,
Big twisty straw.
Twisties.
So, Jeff, without answering, you can think about it while I ask you the question.
All right.
But we're going to judge you
We'll
first.
give you the number first that we think that you're going to be.
We'll give you
Then you come through.
0 to 10 because I'm always a 0 on these questions. You'll learn.
You're already trying to feed it in.
That's just me.
He's a non-believer.
It's just me.
No,
So
Justin
the scale
Bieber.
again, 0 being the lowest.
No, 1 is the lowest.
One's the lowest,
and
and then
Adrian
there's-
is
I'm
0.
Okay.
Adrian doesn't believe in shit. unless
Ask
he
the
can shoot
first
it.
one.
Jeff, in your experience in life, we're about the same age. Do you believe? And he goes by many names: Bigfoot, Yeti. What else?
Sasquatch.
The Squatch.
Right.
The Squatch.
Yeah. Where do you stand?
All right, Rhonda, look at. Okay, you think he's a 7? Rhonda, just look at Jeff in the eyes and see what you think he is. 6.
I was going to say 6.
6?
I think Jeff lives in prime Squatch country up in Minnesota. I'm going to say that he probably has seen him, probably not taking a shot at him, but I'm going to go 8.
You wrong. I think he's a 3.
Oh, 3.
He's too logical. He's too logical.
Yeah.
Where you sit?
It's a 4.
4. That's a good one. That's a good
4.
number, though.
That's
That's a really
Hey,
good number.
It's better than 0.
You're 1 4K video away from believing.
Yeah, just because I haven't seen him doesn't mean that Bigfoot's not real.
Yes. That's a good answer.
Yeah.
All right. Hit him with the second one. 2-parter.
Second one is a 2-parter. UFOs. Have UFOs landed? Are they amongst us? Are they actually being seen buzzing around? My theory is that all redheaded women are aliens.
I saw the link you sent me, by the way.
There's a convention coming
So
up.
there's
Yeah,
a
you
convention
told
of
me.
redheads,
Are we in?
right?
Yeah.
So UFOs, do they exist? Do the lights in the sky mean anything? And the second one is there life, or are there extraterrestrials in the universe? Are we alone?
Okay, so the first question is: Are
they
just
here?
UFOs, not necessarily have they landed,
UFOs in the
Have they
planet
been
Earth.
here? Are they here?
but they can just be
Cruising.
in our
They're
skies.
checking out.
In
Yeah,
our
yeah, in our
skies.
They don't
skies.
have to land, right?
Yep. No.
In the
just
water,
in
wherever.
the Earths.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
Where are we at?
Where do you think he's at? 2-parter. 8.
9.
7 on both.
9. Because Jeff's out of this world.
You're so ready to be a dad.
I'm going 6'10".
I'm going 4, 6.
Yeah. I'm straddling the line. I think he's 3-9. Where you at?
Answer:
Yeah.
8.
Oh,
8.
8'8".
Well,
yes, that's good too.
You were right there too. You were there.
Shit happens in Minnesota, I'm telling
Yeah.
you.
so
Oh, by the way, if you have a
if you
story
have a
with any
story.
of these,
I can't
any
confirm or
type
deny.
of personal
okay,
experience.
all right. So the last one,
He's been probed.
he's been probed. That's why he's an 8.
And yeah.
The last one is a
count.
2-parter as well. I'm pretty confident on the second part. I'm less confident on the first part.
Oh, you're right. Yeah.
First part, ghosts. Do they exist? Now, a ghost is a physical apparition. It's something that maybe it opens locker doors, or it opens the doors, or you can see it. It's got sheets on it. Maybe
Making the lights
you get
move,
it.
knock something off
You
the
get it.
table.
Sure.
You've
okay.
seen ghost hunters. And then the second is spirits. Do we have a connection from a spiritual realm to what's next?
What do you say, Josh?
On both? Yeah. You think he's a ghost guy? Yes. What do you guys think? You're an alien guy. You're a ghost guy. Absolutely. 10 on
10.
both?
Well, I'm going to switch it up and go 3, 8.
Ooh, I'm 3, 9.
Nathaniel, look at him in the eyes. This is the owner of Crux Cigars, and you just judge the shit out of him. 7 on both. +5. Wayne, where you at?
I'm going to say he's an 8 with the story, and a 10 I'm believing in the spirit
damn.
connection.
I'm going 3-10. Where you at?
10-10.
What?
Listen, I've had.
Do you have any stories?
I've had. I have too many stories,
No.
We only need one really good
I
one.
have too many stories, and once again, I don't really believe necessarily in ghosts. I believe in unsettled spirits, right? And unsettled spirits, I've encountered. I used to date a gal years ago, and she was dog sitting for some friends, and we stayed in a room, in a guest bedroom in the house. And as you know, we were just hanging out. We went to sleep. I laid in the bed, and within 10 seconds, I felt this overwhelming depression, and I just went in this black hole, something I've never felt in my life. And I went, oh my God, I got to get up. I don't know what's going on. She goes, what's going on with you? I got to get up. So I went in the living room, watched TV for about an hour. I came back, laid in bed again. I felt the same thing. I went back out and I slept on the couch the rest of the night. Her friends come home and say, no. How did it go? Well, she says, interesting, oddly enough, Jeff stayed in the guest bedroom with me. He couldn't sleep in the bedroom. He just had this feeling of severe depression and everything else. So they actually did some research on the house, and they found out, the owners of the house found out there was a teenage boy that took his own life in that exact bedroom about 20 years before that. Right? So I believe in unsettled spirits, and I can tell you, I mean, my sister she rented a house in Minneapolis with some other college girlfriends, and after the first couple of days, doors were opening, lights were flickering, all the stuff you're talking about actually really happened. And they would hear their names being called. And so these people that own the house were doing some sabbatical overseas. And so they finally connected, and they said, oh, how's it going? Well, we got some questions.
Why are your cabinets so loose?
Yeah, like lights are flickering in the house, and doors are rattling, and we're hearing our names called. And they said, well, so you met her? And they go, you met her? Like, what does that mean? Well, there's a little girl that walks around the house at night. And
you didn't bother to share that information.
And I'll tell you what, this is real stories from real people. My sister's not crazy. They took a picture the day they were leaving the house. They were all four of them were sitting on the front doorstep, and they took a picture of the house. And in the corner, when you look at the picture, in the corner of the drapes, there's a little girl standing in the living room.
Oh, come on. Why do I got goosebumps?
And that's an actual photo my sister has. And so, and then a final story I tell, because I have like 10 more. That's why I'm a 10-10, right?
Part two.
This might be a 10. This might be our first 10-10 like this.
So my friend Perry, you know Perry?
Oh yeah.
Okay, so Perry, he's a painter, so he paints houses inside and out. And he had his crew, and they were working on a house in Lake Minnetonka, an old house. And
Prince's house.
Let's say it was Prince's house. Yeah, that was in Chanhassen. And but a vacant house. They were getting ready to sell, and he was downstairs, and the entire crew was upstairs. These guys all run down the stairs. Grown men run down the stairs, and they said, "There's a little girl upstairs." And he said, what do you mean there's a little girl upstairs? The house is vacant. He said, there's a little girl, and she keeps following us upstairs. So he says, well, let's go get her. We got to find out where she's from. But they go upstairs. They can't find the little girl, right? And so they walk in one room, and they turn around, and there's a little girl standing behind them. And they said, what are you doing here? No response. She walks around the corner. They follow her. She's gone. And this is coming from guys that I'm telling you, they're not. They were not ghost believers, but they are now. And you know, vacant house. There's nothing. It's out in the middle of nowhere. I mean, it's just so. You know, once again, I believe in unsettled spirits. You know, and there's people for whatever reason, they still have some unsettled business, and I feel like the spirit is a very strong thing, right? And they're trying to connect some way, somehow. They don't know how to, so that's why they do things. It's. I mean, I don't know of any instance where spirits are harming people physically in the physical nature. I mean, maybe their psyche or their emotional state of well-being, but they're either trying to say something, do something, and in a lot of cases, there's nothing you can do. They just be unsettled for billions of years. You know.
Yeah. That's
all right. All right.
Yeah. You guys wanted to get rid of the big three. That's some powerful stuff there.
It's staying.
Yeah.
It's staying now. Jeff Haugen, we love you. We appreciate you and respect you You are a true gift to our family. Thank you.
Thank you. You are too. Thank you so much.
Cheers, boys.
Cheers.
Cheers. Thanks for joining us.
All right, let's do
We'll
this
see you
again
guys
sometime.
Saturday at the shop.
We out. Peace.
There, guys.